Hola, 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 hola. I hope you enjoy the food and the beverages. So food and beverages were sponsored by Sulzer and and also by Coten. So thank you very much for that. We also have some free giveaways, which are some SAP Press books, which we're going to. Yeah, we have like 4 winners, so we're going to do that a bit later, after the other break maybe. But yeah, so let's get started with the session for now, which is SAP Business AI foundational models. So this is a very hot topic, and for that we have an expert in the subject, which is Salvador here. And yeah, so welcome, Salvador.
Thanks, Antonio. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the event. It's a big pleasure to be here with you today. I still remember all days when I was a young consultant and I see this event and I think, wow, these guys are like monsters, and now I have the pleasure to be here. Not sure if I am, but yeah, I will try. So my name is Salvador Gimeno, and I work at the SAP Foundation Model team as part of the Business AI unit in product development. So in our unit, our main goal is to train and develop foundational models for SAP for internal usage as part of the AI strategy within the company. So we will, with this model, support different applications and use cases in the different systems. So in the talk today, we will have like 2 parts. In the first part, we will talk briefly about the vision, the strategic vision for this year. We will talk a little bit about the key components of the Business AI portfolio and some benefits. And then after, we will go deep into the foundation models ongoing projects. So I will be sharing a few projects we are currently working on because they are relevant, because ultimately these projects will become functionalities or applications that will serve all of you. So, Business AI. So the strategy for 2025 has been defined as AI first, suite first. The decision for this is not because this sounds nice and it's a buzzword, AI, etc. But the reason is because customers need to transform their business with AI in order to stay relevant in their industries. And then with this, we want to help them to do that. So if we think how we go about do that, we need to go back and do what we are best at. We need to go to the core. And if we think what is our core strength in SAP are the applications. So no one in the market has the breadth and depth of applications that we can cover all different business processes and then extension for industries. So with that, you can imagine that our second layer is data, because with so many applications, we can generate a lot of data. And then if we are able to harmonize and bring together all this data with relevant tooling, we will be able to make this a big differentiator for our customers and users, not only in the analytics spectrum, but also for AI. And this is the third layer. AI will be, let's say, our strategy here will be, and this is why we think we have, again, a big differentiator, is because we have the ability not only to use all this data, but also to bring all these AI capabilities embedded in the products. And this is something no one else can do in the industry. Obviously, when it comes to SAP applications, because we can bring this as part of the product. Now, coming to Business AI, fundamentally there's no so much change from what we have seen in previous years. Maybe a few rebrandings of the components. But basically what we have is at the bottom the what we call the AI Foundation, which basically is a number of services which help you do end-to-end process of training and deploying models. Okay, these services can be deployed in different infrastructures. So this is agnostic, and then this could be deployed in AWS, Google, or Microsoft infrastructures. But the services what help you complete the end-to-end process and all the things you need to do for training and deploying AI models. As an extension that came out recently is the Gen AI Hub. The Gen AI Hub is an application which helps customers to consume in a single place all different generative AI models. We will be seeing that in a quick demo. Then on top of this, we have what we call embedded AI capabilities, which are basically embedded AI-based applications. So it's kind of functionality which is part of a transaction, is part of a Fiori screen that somehow is supported by AI. What is here embedded is kind of transparent for the user. So the user don't need to be like an expert to like a data scientist, right? So anybody can use it. If we will go here at the bottom for AI Foundation, if you want to, let's say, train or deploy these models, you need to be kind of a data scientist or an AI engineer. Then on top we have the Joule, which is the next generation user interface where users can interact with the system using natural language to perform different tasks in the system. Just to show some numbers, already last year, 2024, we delivered 1,300 skills in Joule, and also already integrated with a Microsoft Copilot and SAP Mobile Start integration. And on the side of the embedded AI capabilities, we already delivered 130 use cases, and then we plan to deliver 400 more use cases in 2025. Okay, so now let me see how I do this. Okay. Yeah, so this is the Gen AI Hub. How many here have seen this too? Already a few? Nice. Okay, so basically this is a central hub because, as you know, all LLMs, most LLMs are provided by, let's say, external vendors, because producing an LLM is not something you can do like anybody can do, right? You need a lot of computing power, you need a lot of data, and then these kind of investments only a few companies have done. Then these companies provide access to these LLMs through APIs, and the most famous is obviously GPT. Okay, so GPT is hosted somewhere, we only need an API and then consume it. But there is not only GPT, there are many other LLMs, right? And then imagine that each of these LLM have a specific API for consumption. Then imagine if you need to know all the different APIs, etc. You need to do all this manual work by yourself. This is highly complex. So what we have thought is to provide a central point where you can just consume all these services, all these LLMs transparently. So for you, it doesn't matter what is the model, you will consume it in the same way. So what is here? Basically, you have a model library, and the model library shows you all the models that are available. Yeah, so you can do some filtering, so you can see, okay, how many models are good for embedding, how models are good for image recognition, speech to text, or text generation. You have different filtering here. Or you can say, Depending on my input type, I want all that I can provide a text, for example. And then you can also see what of these are hosted in SAP or are managed in SAP or are like purely third-party LLMs, for example. Sorry. Yeah, and also by provider, right? So for example, I want to see all OpenAI models that we have here. Yeah. So there is some functionality for grounding management. Grounding means that you can somehow add an additional step. So after the LLM respond, you can do some validation of the quality of this, maybe to reduce hallucination. So you can use this functionality for that. You can chat with the models in this kind of chat form. Here in configure, you just select the model you want to use. And then you can add some, configure your parameters. You have this prompt editor as well. So here you can enter more kind of a prompt kind of entry. You select the model. You can set your parameters like frequency penalty, presence penalty, max tokens, or temperature. And you can also use templates, prompt templates already you have defined. I don't know why it's so slow. Okay. You have as well orchestration capabilities, so you can do all these kind of in a pipeline, the grounding, templating, data masking, and input filtering. And then you can have a tool for prompt management, so you can save your prompts, you can reuse prompts, you can have prompt structures, etc. Okay, so now we go back to the presentation. And now we move on to Business AI Foundation models. And here I'm going to share some of the projects we're working on. First one is ABAP AI. It's also called Generative AI for ABAP. So basically, what we try here is to train model for generation of ABAP code, basically. This is the project I've been working on for almost 2 years, and this project was made GA only like a couple of months ago. So yeah, I'm very proud of the work. It's been very complex, but amazing results. So here's some facts. So why we do this? So even though many people in the market think ABAP is a very relevant language, we can see the figures there. More than 100,000 productive ERP systems based on ABAP. More than 20,000 ABAP projects per average ERP system. More than 250 million ABAP lines of code in S/4HANA. And more than 2 million active ABAP developers. So this is the motivation. It's a relevant language, and also any programming language without AI support will not be competitive in the future. So those are the two motivations that led us to do this project. Then in order to do that, we had to train LLM. So for that, we have used our own code base. Obviously, this is something no other vendor can do, because we use the code base of our products, of our own products. We have used more than 390,000 classes, 250 million lines of code, CDS views, ABAP documentation, blogs, help, etc. And with that, we have finally managed to train these models, which now are already outperforming state-of-the-art LLMs like GPT-4. And this is, let's say, the very beginning, because this is not static. We will keep working. And what is static is this one, because LLMs, they, let's say market LLMs like GPT, they don't have the ability to improve that because they don't have the ability to have access to ABAP. So let's say market LLMs will stay here, but we will continually improve that. So so in the first release, GA, what we offer is basically predictive code completion. Basically, you start writing, and then it starts completing words to the right, same as when you write email in Gmail, and then it keeps adding you the next token. Code explains, so you can highlight a piece of code, you can highlight a snippet or a whole program or whole class, and it will explain you what is happening there. Unit test generation, classes need unit test classes to validate. So when you write or modify, append, you need to be sure that this code is still working. So this is very relevant, and this is a big gap in many systems. And then what, we think we can help in this very tedious task with this model. This is the project I was leading personally, ABAP unit test generation. And then Joule Copilot, because you can do all this through Joule. So this is available. You need to purchase additional license in order to use this functionality. And here I'm showing a few notes with the links you can use in order to do that. There is a free promotion until end of September as well. So please, I would like to encourage all you to go and use it and try it at least. It's very, very helpful. So now we will switch a bit to a quick demo. So if you see, this is a class, right? It has a few methods. Here is in this tab, we have the test classes. We see that this is empty. So in this class has not been, nobody has written yet a test for it.
Salvador, if you don't mind, can you make it a bit bigger? It's a bit hard to read. Command plus or something like that? Yeah. Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So what we do basically here is just go Joule. You can do, for example, I can do everything. Oops. I can say explain. So, okay. So here is explanation. Can you see it here at the bottom? You cannot. I'm not sure if this can be done bigger. Well, you can trust me that this is an explanation. But yeah, it's explaining exactly like, so this is the data declaration, this is what are the interfaces doing, what are the methods doing. Yeah. And next, what we do is to use it to generate ABAP unit test. So there is no class, unit test class yet, so add test to the new test class. Okay, bang, we have it here. So we can review it. We can refactor the generated code. So there is a number of features you can do. You can we don't need to go through that. You can use double test framework, etc. And then when you are happy with it, you can just insert it. Oh.
You can maximize the window. No license.
Okay. We can try another one. This is the live things, always. But anyway, you have seen we have generated, I don't know what happens. I am not an ABAP expert to solve this now, but the important thing is that this is the generated unit test, which is what matters. You could copy paste it by hand as well. Okay, now we go back to the presentation. And now I'm gonna talk to you about the second project we are working on is the SAP Knowledge Graph. So I'm going to build on what great Antonio explained before. So I don't think we need to explain too much about what is enterprise knowledge graph. Basically, in enterprise knowledge graph, what we do is that we structure information in a triples schema. Triples schema basically is that everything is a triplet of two entities and then a relationship. So basically, knowledge graph help you store entities, properties, and relationships. They are very helpful in specific use cases. So it doesn't mean that now, okay, let's discard everything. Everything goes into knowledge graph, but we need to understand what are the benefits and then understand the situation where knowledge graph can become very helpful. Then in this case, what we have done is that we have created this knowledge graph that brings together all metadata entities in SAP. So which is tables, CDS views, fields, types, etc. And then with that, what we try to do is to use a semantic layer to enable different other applications like Joule, LLMs, or AI agents, and then give them the relevant business context and semantics. This has been developed in the upcoming HANA Cloud Knowledge Graph engine. Then I don't know if you have heard about it, but this is a tool which is coming 1st of April GA. So let's show you how this works. So basically, you can start with a natural language. So you ask with a text, please provide me all the database tables and views for getting details on contract accounts. Then we have stored in the vector engine all the embeddings for all our entities. And then through that, we will find which are the relevant entities based on that embedding search, similarity search. And then through the knowledge graph, we will shorten this response by showing only the relevant ones, the ones that are, let's say, real. Okay, and then we re-rank and then we present back to the user. So this is, if you can imagine, imagine you are in Joule and you do this kind of question in Joule. Imagine if the Joule guys had to program this by hand, let's say. It's complex, so with the use of this knowledge graph, it's very easy to query and then get a lot of functionality. So this shows how knowledge graph addresses this hallucination problem that LLMs show by just understanding which of the provided answers from the LLM are real. So we go from any hallucination to zero hallucination. And then we also increase more than double the recall. So our value proposition here, we pretend to act as a semantic layer for integration with people with no domain expertise can access all this data. Also enable LLM integration through natural language access, and as well we generate SQL automatically. So now I'll show you a quick demo here as well. So this is the, let's say, API access to this tool. We are not allowed yet to show, let's say, the interface, but I will show you, since you are all developers here, I think you are more comfortable here anyway. So ask LLM, we can ask, provide me with all tables and CDS views for getting detailed data on contract account. And then bang, we get all this, right? And then we can ask to generate SQL for this. So imagine if you ask through Joule, give me all the purchase orders for this. It's like how Joule can do that. So through this, we have seen this Joule can go get the right table, get the right SQL, make the query, get it back, and then filter whatever you want. So yeah, it's quite impressive what you can do here. So you can see a lot of things. You can get hierarchies for CDS view. So this is all that is used under the covers to present all the information back to the user or to the application. And then last, so here I share as well, there is an early adopter care program. So if anybody's interested, here is the link to that. And then finally, I will talk shortly about the SAP Foundation model. So LLM show some limitations when it comes to tabular data. As you know, LLMs are great with text. You can do lots of things, summarization, just name it, translation, code, generation of text. But when it comes to table data, it's hard. So what is another problem that we see that this is traditionally solved with what we call narrow AI. Narrow AI means that for each use case, you train a specific model with a specific data. And then this model is not, let's say, applicable for the other customer because it might have different data. And then this is why we call it narrow, because it's only very narrow for a specific case, specific customer. And then it requires a lot of manual effort, struggles to generalize, and lacks flexibility. So if any of you have been involved in predictive analytics data science projects in the recent years, you all know that customers get very excited. Yeah, let's do that project. Then when it comes to, okay, give me the data, and then it comes to train the model, all projects go in water. So we know that, and then this is why we would like to address this problem. And then what we would like to do is the same way that LLMs have been created by a massive amount of, let's say, text data, trained in a self-supervised manner. We try to do that using tabular data. So we are, what we pretend is to use all the data that we have from customers that have shared the data with us, and then in a self-supervised manner, train this foundation model that could help users to, let's say, ramp up into this kind of predictive projects. So what we do here is that we will get this cloud customer data, which is already anonymized and is already with explicit content. We do semantic encoding, and then we enrich it through the SAP knowledge graph. We add relevant context data from other records, tables, and data sources, and then we use the transformer architecture to do self-supervised pre-training. And then after, our objective is that this model could be used with kind of what we call one-shot inference. So you just present a number of examples for your case, and then you are good to go. And then with this, we move from this narrow AI where for each customer, each use case, you will have a model, to this, let's say, ideal, where you have only one model for every customer and every use case. And then with that, boost time to value in these projects, unlock unprecedented capabilities, and democratize these predictive analytic projects. And then with this, I would like to just conclude. I share here a number of links. All these are very interesting blog articles from the community, and then links to other sections of our portfolio. And thank you very much for your attention.
I have a quick question.
Oh yeah, yeah. Please, any questions? If you...
Regarding the general availability for developers, there's an asterisk saying that if you are not in these versions,
Yeah.
this is under consideration. How is this consideration going?
As far as I know, as of today, only these versions are can let's say use it. But this is only for cloud, SAP cloud, public cloud. So as far as I know, public cloud is automatically updated, right?
Yes.
So it should be,
So for private cloud in RISE,
private
you know, working.
cloud will come in next quarters.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So it might come in June.
Yeah, it may be next quarter.
Okay.
It's in my slide. It says 0 to Q2, but I don't have. But
No,
this
I
is
know
what
how
I
promising it works.
this is what I think. But it will come. You're welcome. Yes, Philip.
Yeah, in relation with the tabular foundation models, you talked about prediction and similar outcomes. So why not using the standard mechanisms for predicting outcomes? Why should we use a table foundation model for that?
Yeah, because then you don't need to train the model,
So we
because
just use it.
you just use it.
And,
So the thing is that you, instead of you train your model, you only provide what we call one-shot learning. Means that in the prompt you say, this is my data, or these are my samples, and then with that I would like to do that, and then
so much easier.
yes. So
Then maybe for the rest of the people, if you like to go to there is a very nice course about knowledge graphs. I would like to recommend you. If you open a browser, because Antonio was talking about it and Salva as well, and the Hasso-Plattner Institute, if you go to hpi.de or open.hpi.de, open.hpi.de, open.hpi.de. So it's still available. I just checked it before. And if you go to the courses, cursos, and if you search for knowledge graph,
Can you share your screen again? Sorry, I messed up things.
We have not seen your screen, Philip.
Yeah, sorry, I messed
yeah,
up.
but this is also a good picture. Knowledge. Just search for it. Here, that one. So this is a course that was published by the Hasso-Plattner Institute in late 2023. It's a little bit dry in the beginning. You need a little bit until you get to the concepts. But with all the terminologies we heard about shackle, RDL, OWL, if you like to get a hold of it a little bit, I think that is a very, very good resource. Yeah? So just an additional
nice.
point for the people who are interested in the matter of knowledge graphs, what they are, what they can do.
Okay. Any other question? Somebody? Okay. So thank you again. I hope it was helpful. Thanks. Ah, yes, perdón.
Aquí, si te pones este micrófono, listo. Ahí está compartido. Ah, bueno, sí, ya está compartiendo. Sí, está compartiendo toda la pantalla.
Genial.
Okay, so that was
Okay.
a very interesting talk about business AI, right? And well, now we have the opportunity to listen to Antonio. Antonio, there are many Antonios around here, me included. Antonio Valladares, who will tell us a bit about a product that Co10 has developed, which is basically the CI Accelerator. So yeah.
Thank you, Antonio. Thank you very much for attending here, and it's a pleasure to be in the SIT Madrid. I hope that this will be a continuation next year, so on. So for the ones that they don't know me, I'm Antonio Valladares, I work for Co10, and my passion is integration. So this product is more than a product. It's something that we want to extend the experience of integration suite and help to the companies to migrate and to take the best of this incredible tool. But let's start first with a small introduction of what we do. We are a very technical consultant firm. We do all the type of integrations. Unfortunately, not only with SAP middlewares, we also play with the competence, but that's not applied for here. And we do all the kind of developments. No? So what we call classic developments in ABAP, but we move it to all the variety that now SAP provides, from low code, no code with SAP Build, normal code, Fiori, Pro Code with SAP CAP and RAP, and you will see how we connect the dots with what we do with CAP. Also, we do developments in the cloud, so we only don't use BTP for developing. We use other platforms like AWS, Azure, and Google Cloud Platform. We do the part of data analytics. We know the SAP tools. We also know third-party tools, and as it is very difficult to sell technology or sell code by kilos or number of interfaces, we try to find these gaps where we can match. No? And one of the gaps that we are very comfortable with, not the only one, is the compliance part. So for the compliance part, we have our own solutions. We are quite experts in the different legislations that we have across Europe and across the world. And we are able to cover sometimes where SAP does not cover, like, for example, the case of ticket buy, or some SAFTI Lithuania, Poland, etc. So from all this knowledge, we have two main products that we are proud of. We have a third one that is a monitor for the SAP systems, but it's not here in this presentation. And today we are going to talk about the Co10 CI Accelerator. So the Co10 CI Accelerator is to improve the journey to the cloud with Integration Suite. So what happened here? No? We have a lot of customers that they need to do a migration. And unfortunately, we know that everybody's waiting till the very end. No? It's waiting for the very end for multiple reasons, because they are busy doing projects, they are busy doing the S/4HANA transformation, they are busy with other improvements around the business. So we are aware of this, no? And we want to help them. But we don't think that the right way of accomplishing this project is just do a lift and shift. Just pick what we have in PIPO and move it to Integration Suite and say, yeah, check. No, we are in the cloud now. So what we want to bring here, is improving this journey, and especially keeping a very close eye in the quality and the governance of the tool. So our vision, we need to establish the integration for the future. No? We don't buy Integration Suite for the following 5-6 months. We buy it for long time to develop and to have this tool as the foundations of the integration of our company. So again, we try to make it more than a product. No? So for that, we build our methodology. Our methodology, I have to say, that is based on the SAP Activate methodology. I think it fits very well with this type of migration projects and also greenfield implementations. So it's slightly different. It's based by wave as well, but we have our own assessment, a little bit more deeper to determine the risk beforehand and try to mitigate it beforehand. Then we have tools in order to accelerate all this transition, and governance. Governance is very important all around here, and probably is the part that nor SAP nor us did our homework before. No? So this is a long run to improve the governance of SAP Integration Suite under my perspective. the objective of this tool, speed up and accelerate, that's obvious, no? But not only that. Again, I will highlight it for third or fourth time already, quality and governance, okay? So how this pop up? No? What was the idea behind all of this? No? How we decide to build this thing? So we were working in integration suite implementations for a long time, and in some large companies that they can afford really preparation phase, no? Discovery phase, to know how the tool will look like, how we will cover the different scenarios, blueprinting one scenario here, blueprinting the other scenario here, what we will do with AI, are we ready to move the exactly once in order interfaces or not? And they were affording to do a discovery phase very long, doing proof of concepts or blueprints for every single scenario and every single integration type. But unfortunately, not all the companies can afford to do a preparation like that. And then, with a lack of discovery, with a lack of architectural planning, because the people want to start the project just when you will deliver the next interface in integration suite, it leads to unhappiness with the tool. No, I hear a lot of sentences like, oh, PIPO, it was better. Oh, in PIPO we do this. The monitor of PIPO is amazing. No? So we try to not tell them that integration suite is not a direct migration. It's a new tool. I would say it's better, but it needs to have a discovery phase and a preparation. So what we would try to do is, in this discovery phase, we already did it multiple times. So we pack all the content that we have, and we try to offer it like, hey, we already know how we will do the DI things. We already know how to solve this asynchronous problem that you will have, the retry mechanism that you will claim after go live, the alerts, etc., etc. So this knowledge pack is also continue evolving. That's the key part. No? Every 6 months, we release a new version, and it's evolving with the knowledge that we are getting, with some customer hints, with some things that we decide to improve, or new features. And this is a kind of democratization of the know-how. So we offer this as part of our service. It's completely free. So when we do a migration, that comes with us. It's a pack. At the end, having a methodology and having tools that they will help you to accelerate it leads to a success, okay? Because we solve the problems beforehand. We know what most of the customers are going to complain about: monitoring, alert, retry mechanism, etc., and we try to solve it beforehand. I'm very happy to say that this was also recognized by SAP. So we have this published in the Business Accelerator Hub, and I'm very happy that with the colleagues of SAP we were validating what we are doing, and I think we are in more or less in the same page. How we deliver this? No? So this has 2 main blocks. One is what we call the Code 10 add-on, that this is pure integration content. Who's familiar here with integration? I see. Yeah? And with integration suite? Okay. So we have a lot of content deployed in packages over there. So the moment that we go to your company, we deploy this, and then it's just a matter of copying the objects, reuse them, etc., etc. So this speed up. And what this content has is like small pieces, building blocks, in order to do your integration, using always the same patterns, so we don't avoid spaghetti programming, and also reusing them, okay? Then the other part is delivered as Code 10 apps. These Code 10 apps are developed in CAP. This is a standalone product as well, so if you build your interface based on another patterns, like could be the pipeline concept of SAP, it's fully compatible with that. No? So these are Code 10 apps that I will show you later on, that are developed in CAP, deploying your own BTP, so they don't consume messes, and you have the same natural look and feel as SAP has. Okay. Going back to the integration content. The integration content we divide it into 3 main blocks. The first block is integration patterns. We try to blueprint all the possible scenarios, like the pipeline concept is doing. The only difference is that our concept has 3 or 4 more years than the pipeline. It's older, and we believe it's slightly simpler. Okay, the pipeline concept is probably super extensive, super complete. We try to go here for a more simplicity when we built it 4 or 5 years ago. So we have cases to solve the exactly ones. We have cases to solve the exactly ones in order. That for the ones that they didn't read now, the GMSQ since yesterday or last week, they are supporting exactly ones in order. So this is great. We were consuming the mesas one by one, calling the hiding APIs. Now it seems that it's out of the box. And we have also patterns for best effort, so very complex synchronous environments where you don't want to avoid to have an iFlow like this size. Publish and subscription interface based on event brokers, also advanced event mesh is one of them. Then the other block is the monitoring and alerting. No? So monitoring and alerting is something that it doesn't come with the initial package. No? So this is something that you need to build. We are integrating these alerts with the most known ITL tools and so on. And then the last block is wherever you cannot fit in the other two blocks, we put it over there. So we have a disaster recovery, backup mechanism, certificate alerting, etc., etc. So, you know, a fast view on this slide. This is our pattern for asynchronous integration. No? And SAP pipeline concept has 5 steps. We did it in 4 back in the days. So the first step is decoupling. And you say, why you are complicating these things? No, why you don't put everything in one iFlow and that's on? No. There are reasons behind that. No? So the main reason is that iDocs are conceptually asynchronous, but in integration suite, technically are synchronous. So what we need to have is a first step that does the decoupling. So we receive an iDoc, we place it in a GMSQ, and we close the connection. This improves the performance of integration suites and the backends. Okay? Then we have another tier. Over there we place all the logic in a very dynamic way. We use a value mapping. More complex than a value mapping, more or less like a value mapping, a table that you can set the rules, and this will address to the next application tier. The application tier is where we place the logic, the transformation logic. This is the only thing that we need to implement. The rest are out of the box. And the last tier is a JMS, read the message from the GMSQ, and dispatch it to the receiver system for the same reason. We want to decouple the sender from the receiver. This is one example of why it's important to use patterns of integration, because if we let different organizations and different developments building the interfaces as they please, integration suite will become a mess. And integration suite, I see it like an empty canvas where you need to draw the architecture of integration that you want to do. In the other block of alerting and monitoring, as I say, we have integration with the most known ITN tools like CSI, Jira, Zendesk, ServiceNow, also Cloud ILM. Sorry for not include it in the picture. And we bet for a more advanced way of getting notification about this. So we integrated with Teams and Slack, and don't worry, WhatsApp as well, but it should be a business WhatsApp. Okay. So you get the notifications directly in Teams when your interfaces are failing, etc., or Slack. Okay, I had a video here, but I don't want to show a video. I think it's better for this round to show it like my brave colleagues live demo. So let me show you. Now I'm going to show you the Code 10 apps. Okay, the Code 10 apps is a standalone product that is available. I have too many windows here. Let me check how I can. Yeah, this goes up. Perfect. So these Code 10 CI Accelerator apps are available in the SAP Store. Okay, and it can be deployed no matter if we did the project or not, if you use the pipeline concept, if you didn't use other concepts, or you build your own concept of architecture. Okay, so we have a landing page. This is what I'm showing you is the beta that it will be released by the end of March. So they include new features that we didn't show in Barcelona SIT. And now we have more KPIs here related with the processing monitoring, with the message status, group by process, etc. When you add more KPIs, it looks better. Just like that. No? One of the first features is the integration dashboard. So what is the purpose of the integration dashboard? This is one single screen with all your integrations grouped by the packages. So this simplifies the way that you navigate across integration suite. And why we build that? No? Because we have all the packages over there in the standard. We build it because of some customer requirement. So in integration suite, you don't have the ability to stop the channels as we were doing in PIPO. And we have one customer that it was complaining, oh, I do factory maintenance. And you know, when we do factory maintenance, we generate a lot of crap files into an SFTP, and we don't want to read it during this period. And it's very horrible to go package by package, deploying the iFlow one by one. And we say, okay, yeah, we kind of agree with you. No? In PIPO, you were selecting all the channels, stopping them, done. So we build this for them. No? So this allows us, for example, to do like, okay, WMS interfaces, we expand them all, hop, and now we select based on the ones that are not deployed, and we do a massive deployment. Okay? This triggers an automatic deploy in the background, and they're starting, and then we can stop it. Okay? So you can start and stop the interfaces in a massive way from one single screen. Okay? Another good point is that sometimes we deploy a version in the system, we migrate a version, but it's not deployed. So here, in one simple screen, we can see that we have a version 1.3, but the deployed version is the 1.2. So this also helps us to identify when we need to redeploy the iFlows in our productive system. Probably the start of all this is our process monitoring. And I want to highlight the word process. Okay? This is not an iFlow monitoring. It's a process monitor. Again, pipeline concept is composed of multiple iFlows steps that are grouped with some sense. Our concept is group of multiple steps with some concept. So what we did here is a monitor that groups them. So, for example, I can show you. Let's show one of the pipeline concept. No? So this is the generation of DevMass using the pipeline concept of SAP. This pipeline concept has 4 steps: sending the IDOC, routing the IDOC, doing the transformation, and receiving. But SAP also has more complex patterns, not this one, sorry. Let me make it bigger so I can, yeah. So the generation of an IDOC to a 3PL, okay? Generation of an IDOC of 3PL using the generic pipeline concept of SAP has 7 steps. So we collect all the messages that are crossing integration suite, we show it in one single place, and we can follow the steps here. No? So there is step 1, 2, there is no step 3, because step 3 in the pipeline concept is used for conversion between JSON and XML or vice versa, or flat to XML, and in this case it's pure XML, so we don't use it. Step 4, 5, 6, and 7. And from here, we can directly navigate to the standard. So this will open the standard integration suite. Sorry, I didn't have it loaded, and it will show us there the message. How we build this thing? So this setup is not very complex. We develop a process cockpit here. Please, Antonio, give me a sign with the time because I didn't control when I started. So we develop a simple screen here where we add the different steps, either based on our patterns that we can select here the corresponding iFlows, or we can go for freestyle to add the different steps as we want, okay, to accommodate with the pipeline concept. Another feature that we develop is a value mapping tool. We have value mappings in Integration Suite. We had it back in PIPO, and in the times of PIPO, all the old consultants, we have an Excel, no, that it was connecting via URL to the PIPO, and we were able to modify it in the Excel and to development, to quality, to production, no? Because we were normally maintaining different values from the different environments. So the transporting it was never making sense, no? And I love that Excel. It was saving a lot of time. So we say, we need to build an Excel like that. But okay, we are in the generation of CAP, no? So we build it like a CAP application. And what we did here is more or less the same as the Excel was doing, just prettier. So for example, we have in one screen all the different value mappings. We filter by WMS, and we see here, for example, one value mapping that has two different agencies, one to convert WMS plans to S4HANA cost center and WMS plans to proper plant in SAP S4HANA. So here we can see the values in a nicely way that the SAP is providing us. We can order, ascendant, descendant, we can locate it by search, no? And we can add them manually here with a very useful screen. But the most important thing, we can export and import it in Excel. No, what we want is to have it in the Excel. So this was just a screen, an excuse to have it in an Excel. So we have it in the Excel, and honestly, sometimes it's the easiest way to play with this. No, to replace values, etc., is the best thing. So we enable the ability of importing and exporting value mappings in an Excel file. It looks like that. So very easy. So if I have, I don't know, S4HANA code for production and for development and for quality and for test and for sandbox, etc., I can easily replace it in a proper way, okay, and upload it in the other system. More features. One of the favorites from all the customers, the certificate monitoring. The certificate monitoring, why is the favorite? Because we have a KPI also, we put it in the landing page, because we always detect the certificates that they expire when they already expire. No? Nobody detected 1 month before, yet. So what we try to accomplish here is just with one simple click, hey, show me the certificates that are going to expire in 1 month. Nothing in this case, we are working very well. In 2 months, they are going to expire 2 of them, okay? Also, we can see the ones that are already expired or just the rest that are active, okay? We have here a KPI on top of this, no? So there will be no more excuses that, why this failed this interface because of the certificate? No. The certificate monitoring, you can do all the actions that you can do with the certificates also from here, okay? We implement the ability of loading, uploading, renaming the certificates. Behind all of this magic, we are consuming the APIs of Integration Suite, okay? The hidden ones and the non-hidden ones. And then we develop a partner directory, okay? So the partner directory, I think we released it at the same time, SAP and us, no? It's very similar to the one that SAP released 1 month ago. So it's to fulfill the EDI needs that we detect in our customers in order to do conversions, in order to do all these things. So not much to say. SAP release 1 is very good enough. So you have it in 2 places. One of the last features is that we tried, to move also with the AI. And during the break, I had some conversation with Antonio about how we can improve this, because AI, as they show us the real experts of knowledge graph and so on, still very green. No? But we try to, with all the features that we have here, create a chatbot experience with natural language that it will help us to do some checks. No? So for example, okay, I need to start writing. Tell me the value mappings that have name WMS. So to know what possibilities do I have for value mapping conversion with WMS exchange in order to implement a new interface. And let's hope that it will work. This is the high risk of the presentation. Okay, it worked. It worked. So here we have the different value mappings that we have in all directory, no? And we can see that we have one that is for PO to STO, another one is for the plants that we showed you before, another one is for purchase order value, etc. So we have some value mappings here. We can go also for, like, we create some buttons to don't type, no? So certificates expired, okay? Because now I'm lazy and I want to type. And without resetting the thing, it's risky, but it worked, no? So here we have a list of the certificates that are expired. When the AI becomes a little bit crazy and the context start to mess it up, we create a new button on here to click and clean all the context. And this is basically what we build and what we are going to release by the end of this month. Okay. So I think with all this, just tell you a little bit of the architecture very fast. CAP, I think we have here more experts than me in the CAP, but basically we use a SQLite memory to facilitate all these transactions and to have a great user experience in terms of speed. We have this developing customers that they process 35 million mesas. I have a video demo, but they have the logo, so I didn't want to show it there, but I can show you later on personally. 35 million mesas in the monitor. The experience is click, 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 click all the time. We use different authentication mechanism, no? The default identity provider and the EIM. The reason is that we are going to release more features for the governance. And we use the theme Horizon, same as we are using in Integration Suite. Okay, so that's all. If anyone has a question, do not hesitate to contact me. Or you can ask the question now. We can ask the chatbot. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So today we actually had a different talk for this slot. So it was going to be about document reporting compliance. Unfortunately, the speaker is unable to be here with us because of an accident that he had a couple of days ago. Fortunately, he's doing well, so it's not something major, but basically I had to come up with this presentation in 2 days. So I'm not making any excuses because of that. So yeah, that doesn't really matter. But let me share my screen with you guys. Oh, host disabled. Can you, Antonio? Yeah, host disabled. Puts his screen on the screen. Yeah. So let's just wait a second. No, still. Nope. Nothing yet. ¿Ahora? No, siempre. I don't know why it's on. Huh? No. Okay, try again. Ah, there we go. Okay, perfect. So let's see. Yeah, so I'm just going to share my screen now. So what I'm going to talk to you about today is basically building flexible event-driven architectures with open standards. That's very important, right? So we're going to look at some of the open standards that you can use in order to build your event-driven architectures. But before we start, let's talk a bit about event-driven architectures. So who here doesn't know anything about event-driven architectures? Okay, that's fine, that's fine. Let's discuss it. And I hope that with this very simple explanation, you'll have an idea about it. In essence, an event is anything, right? Anything that actually changes in the state of a business object, for example. So to give you an idea, in an S4HANA, whenever we create a business partner or whenever we modify, for example, a sales order, that can raise an event. So to notify someone that that change has happened, for example, so that someone can react to that and basically do something about it. Okay. So there I just described two of the key players in an event-driven architecture. One is the publisher, which is basically the system that will end up notifying, like something has changed in my business objects, in my data structures, and the consumer, who is basically the player in the event-driven architecture who's interested in doing something about it. So, for example, if you think about it, like maybe you want to replicate that sales order somewhere else, so you can do something about it. You can listen for that event and do, and I don't know, replicate it, for example, within another system. Now, I mentioned about listening, so a key component of an event-driven architecture is that in the middle, we have something that is called an event broker. An event broker is basically who ends up receiving those messages or who ends up handling that, the exchange of messages between two systems. Now, these two systems do not need to know about each other, right? They can be completely independent. So, for example, like the consumer doesn't have to be available whenever something happens in the source system. So, in the publisher, like it's something that, for example, is completely asynchronous. Okay, so maybe we will be able to see it better with a little animation that I have in a bit. But you can think about, for example, events happening everywhere. Like, for example, whenever, I don't know, you do a credit card transaction, right? You receive a notification straight in your phone just to know that everything went well. So that's an example, for example, in event-driven architecture when you get notified immediately. Or whenever your gate has changed for your flight, then you need to go to a different gate, for example, in an airport. That's another example. Now, you'll notice here down below that I have a payload. This payload basically shows you how you can end up sort of documenting or structuring that event. And we're going to talk about this specifically because this is actually an open standard. So hold that thought for me because we're going to talk about it in a bit. But then we have, in essence, two types of events. So what we call notification events and data events. A notification event is basically, and this is purely based on the amount of data that there is within the event. So for example, a notification event will be something that will just notify me like this business partner has changed, and it only includes a business partner ID. Very limited information, right? Now, a data event will contain, for example, everything that has changed. So for example, imagine that that business partner has changed, and it actually includes not just the ID, but also the name, its address, all the information relevant to that particular event. So what will end up happening, for example, and this is how, and have a look at this animation here, but this is how, for example, the all sort of the interaction between the systems in an event-driven architecture happens. So the event is raised in a publisher, right? For example, an SAP backend. Now, that event is actually sent to an event broker, right? My publisher connects to an event broker and just sends the notification. Now, he doesn't really know who will end up consuming it. In this case, for simplicity purposes, we have one consumer, but this could be 10 different consumers, right? So, and then the consumer obviously connects via the event broker to the event broker, in order to receive that event. Now, if that event was of type data, then I have everything that I need in order to process it. But if it's a type of notification, which includes limited information, then I will need to do something like an API call, for example, back to the publisher. In this case, the consumer does know about the publisher, but that's not necessary if I have something like a data event, for example. But you can see scenarios where a notification might be best, like in the sort of scenario where you have sensitive data and you want to limit who actually ends up accessing that data, because a data event, as it contains everything, yeah, you could have sensitive data. Obviously, you can end up encrypting that data and all that sort of stuff, but we will see that in a bit. Okay, so benefits of an event-driven architecture, as I mentioned before, decoupling. The consumer system doesn't need to be aware of the publisher system. It doesn't need to be online when the publisher system, something happens. It also happens very fast. So in real time, like whenever an event is created, like happens, then you can react immediately to it. And we will see it in a bit how I will end up, as part of the demo, I have 2 different services communicating via an event broker, and you will see basically the events being exchanged immediately, okay? And which is basically the PubSub style integration, which is what I've been trying to explain, right? The publisher having a subscriber and then connecting via an event broker. Right, so I mentioned briefly before, like for some of you, this photo might be familiar. No? Yeah? Yeah, so we have a speaker who's from Poland, and this is actually a photo from Poland. So imagine his journey all the way to the Madrid office, right? Like all the different events that he was creating across the journey, from credit card transactions. Maybe he caught an Uber to get to the airport, buying some refreshments, you know, then catching the plane. You know, everything is basically an event. So you can see how, I don't know, all the different companies, all that you interact with, can end up benefiting from this type of integrations, right? By receiving those notifications and doing something about those notifications. Okay, so open standards. This is the core of the talk now. This is what we're interested in. So cloud events. I don't know if you noticed before a payload that was here down at the bottom. So that payload actually follows a specific format, which is based on this specification. And what this specification ends up doing is that it helps us describe our data in a common format, okay? Now, you're familiar with this already, right? We saw it before, how those events basically are being sent to the consumer. Now, let me tell you that in the case of an SAP S/4HANA Cloud, for example, every single event that's being raised from that system is actually a cloud event. So it's actually cloud event compliant, and that's what it ends up sending to our event broker. So obviously, whichever system that wants to react to that event or that consumes that event will end up processing what in essence is a cloud event, right? Obviously, then this is what a cloud event looks like. And you can see that, for example, and this is the thing, this is key, like an event can be anything. It can just be a string, you know, and I'll show you as part of my demo that, like, I can just say, send, for example, a hello world, and hola mundo, you know. But if we add some structure to it, we actually add some context to the data that's here. So imagine, for example, if you receive just a payload, just containing, well, it could be just this ID. You don't know what that ID means, right? Obviously, we wrap it in a JSON structure in order to tell me, like, this is a business partner, okay? But then it's like, okay, but we know that there are many SAP systems that interact with business partners. Not just that, but it's like we can also have multiple ERPs. How do we know that that actual event comes from a specific ERP? Well, in this case, the cloud event, that's something very helpful, because as part of my source, it actually tells me, you know, which system it is, you know? So you can think about it this way. In a cloud event, we have header, which describes the data that comes here. And this is where it's quite powerful, because here, for example, this data, it's quite flexible. In this case, it's of data content type, application JSON. But it could also be something that we can end up encrypting, for example. You know, imagine a data event that contains sensitive data. I can actually send that as encrypted data, you know. Not the case of SAP S/4HANA Cloud, but if you're developing your custom applications, that can give you an idea that the data content type obviously will be something different. And then here within your data, like, you can even send an XML if you need to, you know, that sort of thing. Okay, now I mentioned how SAP S/4HANA Cloud generates cloud events. Now, all SAP systems that generate events that follow the cloud events specification, okay? This is an example of an SAP Marketing Cloud event. And as you can see, it follows the same sort of structure, right? So once you're familiar with the structure, you know that any SAP system basically follows the same structure. Obviously, the data will change. In this case, it's another notification type of event, and it just contains a UUID. Now, all events are also documented in the SAP Business Accelerator Hub, right? And every single event that you will find there follows the cloud event specification, okay? Just for you to be aware. So it's quite important, actually, to be familiar with the the specification, because systems that react to that, I'll give you an example. SAP Build Process Automation, like you can have a process reacting to an event, but I cannot send just any JSON structure to it. It needs to actually be a cloud event for it to actually react to it. If not, it will ignore it, okay? And we will see a bit of that later. Okay, so that's cloud events. I don't know if there are any questions so far. Ooh, time. No? Cool. HTTP also. I think this is quite powerful because in the end, let's see who here in the room knows when the HTTP protocol specification was created.
90-something.
Protocol was 1989. I actually searched for it yesterday, but around those dates, yeah, for sure. So 1989. And what I think is quite powerful is because it's a protocol that has been around for so long and is still very relevant. Because, for example, like using HTTP, we can actually make legacy systems part of our event-driven architecture, okay? That being, like, some of those legacy systems can just do like an HTTP post somewhere. Well, that legacy system can actually send that to an event broker. Now, maybe that legacy system exposes an API, or I'm able to create some form of API that can receive something. Well, if that's the case, then within my event brokers, sometimes I can end up configuring to forward an event to an HTTP endpoint. So this is why it's so powerful that the protocol, because we can end up using it in order to use those sort of legacy systems, right? So as I mentioned, a publisher via HTTP sending an event. That can be a cloud event, by the way, not necessarily, but just for you to be aware of the open standard, like you can end up using that in order to communicate, right? And this is the case of SAP Build Process Automation. SAP Build Process Automation, and this is why it bridges the gap between sort of legacy applications and also modern applications. Now, if you send an event that you want like a process to actually react to that, that I've deployed in Build Process Automation, then that needs to be a cloud event. So for example, in this case, my publisher can use, for example, HTTP in order to send that cloud event via my event broker, obviously. Now, in the broker, we configure something that's called like a webhook sort of mechanism. And using HTTP, I actually communicate with an API in SAP Build Process Automation. So SAP Build Process Automation doesn't actually connect to the broker, but it's the broker who's actually sending the data. Obviously, it authenticates OAuth 2, all that sort of stuff, all the way to Build Process Automation, right? And then obviously, my process can be kicked off. Now, another open standard, AMQP, which stands for Advanced Message Queuing Protocol. Now, this is the most common protocol used in order to sort of open, right? In order to communicate with those event brokers. And I'll show you in a bit how, for example, how seamlessly we can end up connecting to one broker. Then just by changing the connection string, I can communicate with a completely different broker, okay? Without touching my application, only changing connection strings. So that's quite powerful, right? And this is a case, for example, of actually SAP S/4HANA Cloud. So SAP S/4HANA Cloud, whenever, I don't know if you guys are aware, but you're able to configure 3 different event brokers in SAP S/4HANA Cloud. As I mentioned before, it actually sends a cloud event. And that connection between SAP S/4HANA Cloud with the event broker is actually using the AMQP protocol, always, okay? So if it's the standard sort of connection mechanism that SAP S/4HANA Cloud, right, has. So that will be via AMQP, and as you can imagine, you can have multiple consumers. For example, Cloud Integration has an AMQP adapter, which you can end up using in order to connect with the event broker. Or it could be a CAP application. And I'll show you a CAP application in a bit, how you will end up basically doing that. Okay, so that's a lovely setup, isn't it? So can anyone tell me what this machine is? I imagine most of you might know what this is, but what about this? No? Sorry, this machine here. Yeah, the column, I'm sorry. So this machine here I'm referring to. Anyone can guess what that is? No? That's a coffee bean roaster, exactly. Yeah, just like many of you here, I imagine that most of you roast your own coffee at home, right? So yeah, as part of my demo, what I'm going to do, let's imagine that this is a very intelligent machine. It's a lovely machine, by the way. But let's imagine that this is actually connected to the internet, and whenever it finishes roasting, after the process, it notifies me, like, for example, of something that happened, okay? So we're going to talk about that and demo time. All right, let's see. Demo gods will work. So, but before I go to just like the applications that ends up producing like those sort of coffee roasting payloads, I just want to show you what I meant by HTTP, right? So for example, here, as you can see, this is just a pure HTTP client. Let me make this bigger. Can you see it? Okay, so this is just a pure like HTTP client. I'm connecting here to an event broker, just using basic authentication. And as you can see, plain text, right? So in this case, yeah, so that, let's close this so that you can see that this is live. So, okay, it sends an event, okay? I might have lost my connection here, maybe. Let's see if I did. Oh, okay, let's connect, sorry. Okay, cool. So I'm just going to subscribe here. So this is one event broker, right? In this case, this is Advanced Event Mesh, but this could be other broker, it doesn't really matter. So I'm going to subscribe to this and to another topic, okay? But so Hola Mundo, you can see I've sent that now and I've received it in my event broker, right? This is plain text, doesn't have any context, right? Now I can obviously also send a JSON structure, right? I received it there. You can see JSON, nice JSON, I don't know which system ended up sending it, but I received some payload, right? Now, for example, here I have a bit more context, This is the power of the sort of a cloud event, where it basically tells me where is it being sent from. In this case, it's not really being sent from that system because I'm sending it via HTTP here, but this gives you an idea, right? Like, you see, so this payload, obviously, tells me a bit more about that particular event, correct? So this is just a cloud event payload. And you can see that there is a bit of a difference also here. The content type, it tells me is an application cloud event JSON, okay? Just for obviously the receiver will end up knowing that and in order to be able to process it correctly. Now, I also mentioned before, and I see, let's see if it actually works. Okay, all right, so this little website basically just publishes an endpoint, and I can actually, and what I've done is that in my event broker, I configure the forwarding of events to this particular website, okay? So now I obviously configure also in my event broker like sort of routing rules so that, for example, anything that's published with this, for example, SID Madrid topic will end up being forwarded to that website. So let's look at it. Let's see. Yeah, so here, for example, I'm going to send this cloud event, and you see how it basically end up receiving it, right? My website ended up receiving that. And we will see more events here, but that's the idea. Like in the end, it's like, even though you've not seen the configuration, like the reality is that via HTTP, I'm communicating with the broker, and the broker itself via HTTP is actually communicating here. I'm not using anything to connect from here to the broker. It's actually the broker who's forwarding that event. Similar to what would end up happening, for example, if you had an SAP Build Process Automation. Okay, but now let's go to AMQP and back to my coffee roasting scenario, okay? So in this case, I basically have here on my left-hand side, two CAP applications. One is the coffee roaster consumer and the producer, okay? In both cases, as you can see here, let's move this here. As you can see here, I am using a specific library, which is basically just an AMQP client in order to be able to connect to the broker, okay? That's the little library there. You can see it. You will be able to also find it in an NPM. It has all the instructions on how you can end up connecting. And this is basically an SAP published AMQP library. Okay, And apart from that, that's it. Those are all the dependencies that this has. And what I'm going to show you now is that first I'm going to connect to an event broker in Integration Suite. So event mesh, that's part of Integration Suite. And then just by changing connection string, I will end up connecting to advanced event mesh, okay? But let's start with our producer, okay? So in this case, npm start. Wait, I haven't shown you the connection string. So this is my producer here. You can see I'm using the CDS require MQP in order to connect to EMIS, as you can see here. All right, and now if I want to send an event, I just have a little function that DJ doesn't like, seems like, I don't know why, part of our data, which ends up actually triggering an event. And you can see it here, right? We have an event here. It's actually a cloud event, okay? And that's being sent to the event mesh part of Integration Suite. Okay, so let's go to event mesh. Let's see if I can see it somewhere here. Not here. Nope, sorry. How do I? Yeah, Integration Suite here. Sorry. So here I have my. Might have expired. Yeah. You know, I need to re-log in. Logging in. Ooh. Okay, 5 more minutes. Almost there. I don't know if you guys are hungry, but we have a break now and there's more food. So, yeah.
Freshly roasted coffee.
Well, yeah, hopefully. I should have brought some beans, you know, I forgot, but well. Okay, so let's see here in Event Mesh, you will be able to see the queues. And as you can see, I have 2 messages there, okay, which is basically the 2 that I triggered. Just so you can see that I'm actually sending that. If I refresh this, there should be a 3rd. Yeah, awesome. So now, obviously, if I do here an npm start, this is my consumer. We can see the connection of my consumer here, connecting to MIS. Once it starts, obviously there are some messages in the queue. It will automatically start processing those messages. So it will just receive them. It will display. It will print them out in the command line. Did it? There they are. You see. So now obviously it's like via that broker, I'm just sending requests, and you can see them being received immediately, right? Via event mesh part of Integration Suite, okay? All of this is using that AMQP library that I showed you before. So now, okay, so now we know that this works. But let's imagine that instead of having one single machine, we have 100 machines, you know, and then I start roasting like crazy. And obviously, by then I no longer work for SAP. Like I have my own roasting business, you know. Okay, but yeah, let's dream about that. But then it's like, so I need a more powerful broker like Advanced Event Mesh, okay? So let's stop this. And here, I'll stop this as well. I'll just need to basically replace my credentials, my connection details, right? And you see that they are very different, you know, like here, for example, in both cases, I'm obviously using AMQP. One, I'm using OAuth 2 authentication. In the other one, is like just basic authentication, but through the AMQP protocol. In one case, for example, for Event Mesh, I actually end up creating a service key in BTP and all that sort of stuff, which is something that you might have noticed, maybe here. You see in the overview, you can see that I have 2 message clients for there, right? But now, like, I'm going to connect to Advanced Event Mesh. So I'm just, in my producer, I will end up replacing those credentials, npm start. And now you'll see here that it will tell me, like, yeah, you're connecting to Advanced Event Mesh now. You see AM. Okay, cool. So now, for example, I can end up sending a couple of requests as well. Cool. 2 messages, let's say. Those messages, for example, you see, they were received here in my HTTP endpoint. Okay. Apart from that, they should be in some queue somewhere that I previously configured. And that's something that obviously is like, what's cool about it is that I'm connecting to a new broker, okay? Just changing the connection string, but I still need to, for example, create those configuration objects in that new broker, like for example, that queue, you know, and that subscription that queue requires. But yeah, in essence, it's there. You can see here that, for example, I'm also receiving those messages in this client that I subscribe to. But obviously, it's like now I want my application to actually receive those messages that I send, right? So let's connect via that consumer. Let's just send another message so that you can see it here. Yeah, there's the message. Is that it? Yeah, just now. Awesome. So now let's change, obviously, the credentials in my consumer. It was connecting to Event Mesh, part of SAP Integration Suite. And now I would just connect to Advanced Event Mesh, okay? npm start, and I should receive my events that are in that queue. There we go, awesome. So now, obviously, you've seen how by just changing connection strings, no changes to my business logic, I was able to actually connect to different brokers, right? So obviously, if you have developments that are connected to Event Mesh, maybe this is something to take into consideration, right? Like maybe eventually you will end up growing and having 100 roasters to roast your coffee, and then you can end up, easily upgrading, for example, your code by just changing like a connection string, okay? And yeah, if I send more messages, you can see how my consumer just ends up, receiving all these messages, right? Nicaragua, Uganda, Guatemala, yeah. Lovely places to drink coffee from. Okay, back to my presentation. Open standards, okay, important. In the SAP world, every event is a cloud event. Know that. So some applications might require you to actually format your messages as cloud events in order for them to be able to react. HTTP, you can use it to bridge those legacy gaps, those legacy applications with modern applications, okay? Pretty much every application is able to send an HTTP post request, So we've seen it how with a simple REST client, I was able to send that. And AMQP, it's an open protocol, which is quite good. In the end, it's like you're able to use it to, as you've seen, to connect to multiple brokers, different brokers, So in this case, it was Event Mesh and the SAP Integration Suite Advanced Event Mesh. Different, for example, if you will end up using maybe proprietary libraries and not just like a standard sort of AMQP library. I could have used, by the way, there's another library for AMQP. I could have used that one, but I work for SAP, so I'll use the SAP one. That's it. Thank you. Well, I don't know if you have any questions. Yeah. Two questions.
First is, how does this can be compared with Kafka?
Kafka. Yeah, well, in the end, Kafka is another event broker. But the main difference about Kafka, for example, is that in reality, Kafka is a log. Okay, so you can end up replaying messages. Okay, so for example, in Kafka, as I mentioned, it's a log. So maybe one of your consumers might want to go to a previous state. You will be able to do that and like point it to, I don't know, maybe it depends on how long you retain those messages. Go back to, maybe a week ago and replay all those messages, which is quite important, for example, when you're doing analytics based on your events, for example. That's a reasonable. But then we didn't cover this, but Advanced Event Mesh, for example, does allow you some of that replay mechanisms, even though it's not a strict log. Yeah.
Second question.
Yeah.
About coffee roasting.
Yes, awesome. This is the best question.
What's the big difference between a coffee roasted by yourself and a coffee that is roasted and I buy it roasted in the supermarket? Don't get me started. It's a huge difference. So obviously I buy the green bean. I buy a better quality green bean, which is normally might end up being hand-picked. So the thing about the coffee shrub, I think it's called, the little tree, is that the fruit doesn't actually mature all at the same time. So you would have, for example, fruit that is green and fruit that is red, Mass producers or mass roasters, what they end up doing is that they use machines in order to pick up all this fruit, right? Obviously, it will not be ready. But if you buy like specialty coffee, then obviously you end up paying a lot more for it, but you end up paying for people to actually pick it themselves, and seeing, okay, this fruit is ripe, I pick it up. And that's the bean that I end up buying.
that's compared to, for example, like just supermarket coffee. But then obviously there are specialty coffee roasters around, and they do buy like really good coffee, green coffee. And now another cool thing about it is that you can actually play around with the recipe. Play around with the recipe basically means how long you roast something for, and that's another problem that generally is like nothing to do with integration now. Generally, people like what you buy in the supermarkets, they roast it for too long, you know. So that's why it even has like that bright, dark color, your coffee in the cup, you know. In my case, I do like a medium, sometimes not even medium roast, but lower than that, and you end up tasting a lot different flavors in the coffee.
It's like Arabic coffee.
Yeah, Arabica. Yeah.
And in Arabia,
Yeah.
they have a semi-transparent. They have a semi-transparent coffee, which is
Yeah,
really
maybe.
tasty. You don't know about.
We could talk about more about coffee. You had another question.
Yeah, just one quick question. I can't follow that though. But going back to the cloud events
Yeah.
definition, we had a look at some of the JSON
Yeah.
structure of the payload with the header properties, the top level properties, data content type.
Yeah.
I'm having difficulty imagining anything other than the value application JSON in there because the data itself is contained within that JSON bucket.
Correct.
So, can you help us understand how we might see another content type inside of that JSON?
Yeah. Well, you know, I mentioned XML, and I wasn't kidding about it. Like, if you actually go to the cloudevents.io website, one of the examples that they show you is that data content type is of application XML, and within the data node, what they end up including is actually a string. Yeah, ugly.
Okay, I was hoping that wasn't the answer.
Well, but this is the thing. It's flexible, you know. So, for example, like that data, maybe, yeah, like I don't know. Maybe if you are encoding something in base64, for example, then you can end up putting it within that data field. So that's the thing. Like,
So it's the embedded content.
it's the embedded content exactly, just within that data node. Yeah.
There's a limitation 1 megabyte, or also a limitation in the advanced mesh of the.
Yes. So that depends on the broker. In the case of advanced event mesh, the larger the broker, the larger the messages that you can send. But in this case, I'm using a tiny broker. But yeah, it can be up to, I think, 10 megabytes. But that's a very powerful broker, the one that you're spinning up. Yeah.
If a broker is temporarily down, how is it usually managed? The publisher keeps trying to rise the event, or?
Yeah, exactly. So, in the case of, for example, event mesh, it's a central managed instance. So you only connect to one endpoint, for example. But in the case of advanced event mesh, you can have multiple brokers. But then, obviously, your publisher needs to be clever enough in order to know, like, you know what, I can send this to this event broker or to this other event broker. So, but it's the publisher who need to handle that. That being said, for example, one cool thing about advanced event mesh, for example, is that given that you can have multiple brokers, let's say one broker goes down, and then the brokers actually keep track of themselves. So they know, for example, if there's a queue in a particular broker who's interested in a specific topic, you know, and that way, for example, let's say that I publish to node A goes down, and someone in node A is interested in that SID Madrid, for example. And then I publish a message, an event to broker B, for example, to node B, okay? Node B knows that he eventually needs to send that message to node A once it becomes available. So that's the thing, like we will not end up losing the message because brokers are aware of each other, and once the other one comes back up, then node B will be responsible of actually sending all those events that it receives that needs to send to node A, for example. Yeah. Cool. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, and we have a break now, so yeah, we have. Yeah. No, well, I had a lot of questions. Sorry. Yeah, we can meet back in 20 minutes. Yeah. Yeah, muchas gracias. Gracias.